The following is a member of the Burke Reviews podcast family. BurkeReviews.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Burke Reviews Movie Club. I'm John Burke, and with me this week, as always, Corey Starr.
Hello, hello.
And we're recording a little earlier than normal because we're recording on a Saturday. Usually we do these Friday nights really late, and instead we're doing it in the afternoon on a Saturday for me. Morning for Corey because of the 3-hour time difference. How you doing this morning, Corey?
I'm okay. It's 2 hours, thankfully. 3 might
that's
kill
right.
me.
Sorry, 2.
No, it's fine.
Oh, so it's 10 o'clock. That's right. Okay.
Yeah. I did wake up early, though, and I made some breakfast and, did things I had to do. But, yeah, I'm fine. It's the weekend, finally.
Corey, I got to talk about my breakfast.
Oh, heck.
Since I can't remember if it was Trainspotting or if it was one of the Edgar Wright films that first made me very aware that British people eat
Baked beans.
with their breakfast. I've been wanting to try that.
It freaks me out.
Well, I finally, this week, decided this was going to be the week. I was going to go for an English fry-up, and so I elicited some recipes online to see there's a lot of different variations of the breakfast, but I hit up our friend of the podcast, Matt, from whatIwatchtonight.co.uk.
Very smart.
And it was like, hey, what is your perfect breakfast? And we talked about it, and it's always beans and usually like a fried egg that's runny. Types of meat, and the meats vary. I went with a little healthier. I went turkey bacon and turkey sausage this morning, but we had baked beans. My wife bought baked beans for hot dogs last night, and I'm like, I'm gonna save this, and that'll be my breakfast beans as well. And then made some hash browns and a fried egg, and I managed to burn the toast. The only thing I messed up, and it wasn't my fault, I blew a fuse because I had too many things going on in the kitchen. So
no.
The toast started to toast, and then the fuse popped, so I had to turn the fuse back on, and then I put the toast back in, but I didn't adjust the heat, so it had already been toasted a little, and so it burned a little bit more than I would normally do my toast. But I gotta say, one, I am so full still, and I ate breakfast like 4 hours ago, and I'm still stuffed because it was so much food. But two, beans and eggs is pretty delicious. I don't know why we stopped doing it in America.
So I have a question, and every time that I've seen it, I've seen photographs, of people traveling and they take pictures of their English breakfast or, and I've seen it in movies. It's just canned baked beans, right? Is that what Matt said?
Yes. According to what I've read,
that's what it looks like.
Traditionally, it's the Heinz baked beans. That's the go-to from
Damn,
what I've
Heinz.
read. But I did use Bush's baked beans, and it was not the normal flavor either. I forget which one. My wife bought one of the grillin' beans, so that's what I went with. But I thought the flavor was really good, and mixing the hash browns in with the potatoes and then the eggs and the runny yolk, which I'm a fan of the runny yolk on eggs anyways. I don't know, you got to be an egg person for that. And yeah, I was very. I'm still full. I don't know if I'm gonna eat lunch. It was a lot of food, and I only made 3 pieces of bacon and just a big piece of sausage, but I kept it. It was like a smoked turkey sausage, but I definitely could have made more food and would have been regretting it. So I'm glad I think I portioned it well, it all fit on the plate really well. And I sent a picture to Matt, and he gave me the honorary Englishman achievement. So
Yes.
Yeah, and we were talking about the time difference. Matt and I record 2 podcasts together. We do our Bloody Awesome Movie podcast that we do monthly, and we're doing on his podcast show. We do a movie astrology podcast that we just recorded the 2nd episode the other night, and he's 6 hours ahead of me. I think maybe 5 hours, but when we started, it was the 2nd episode of movie astrology is 2 hours and 10 minutes, so. It was 2 a.m. for him when we ended.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, man, you got to be, exhausted. And he's like, well, I'm okay. But I guess, I don't know if he always has Fridays off or if it was just this week he had Friday off because we recorded Thursday. And so he's like, I don't have to work in the morning. I just got to be up with my daughter, but I can be sluggish around the house. I'm like, okay, because I was feeling really bad because we just kept with movie astrology, we cover an entire year worth of film, and we ended up the years are randomly chosen. The first episode we did was 1988. This episode's year 2002, and so we'd seen like so many of the movies from 2002. So we had so much to say about so many movies that we just kept talking, and I'm like looking at the clock like, oh man, I really got to get off of this podcast for two reasons. One, I don't want the podcast to be 3 hours long. I knew, I guess three reasons. I knew Matt was getting really late, and then I was planning on seeing Sicario Day of the Soldado that evening, and I was like, it was getting closer to time where I needed to leave to make it to the movie, which I did make it to that movie, and we'll talk about that momentarily with what we watched this week. But yeah, been an eventful week. I feel like I've done a lot. I haven't done a lot. I went to the beach. I got real sunburn on my legs. And my wife got real sunburn on her shoulders, like really bad sunburn. Not blistering bad, but still like the worst sunburn either one of us have had in many years, because we've avoided the beach for a long, long time. But we went to Siesta Key in Sarasota. Have you ever been to that beach?
Oh, I have not.
It's I did not know this going there. They have a big sign that says it's the #1 beach in the USA. I don't know if that's true, but I've never seen sand so fine. Like, it was powder. It's so like granular, and there's like no shells in the beach. It is a gorgeous, weird, surreal place because it's very flat, and like it's just Gulf of Mexico. You see nothing, just water forever. So it's like flat beach until it hits the water, then nothing but water, just flat all the way across, and it's gorgeous, but at the same time, that fine of sand gets in everything. I felt like Anakin Skywalker from the prequels. Just, it's coarse and irritating, and it gets everywhere. But yeah, how was your week, Corey?
A little busy. I'm sure you saw the photos, but we picked up our kitchen table this week, which is very exciting, and it's beautiful.
Nice.
And I ordered my dining room chairs. So that was like one evening, and then after that we went to family. We have family visiting from Alabama, my husband's cousin and his wife and their kids. And then my meme is visiting from West Palm. So lots of good fun. Food,
oh, wow.
Hang out. And then last night we hung out too. I didn't get to go to a movie this week, but I finished Burnt Offerings. I've just been trying to clean my house because, and doing things like that. So
is Burnt Offerings a TV show or a movie?
It's an old movie.
Okay.
And I feel like it's really not fair that every movie because I'm pretty sure that's from the 70s, but every movie that's like a haunted house or like a ghost story, it just gets compared to Changeling, and that's just really not fair. I'm like, oh, it was okay, but no. I mean, it was fine.
Got it. So is that all you've watched this week? I guess we kind of jumped into that segment, but
yeah, that's all that I can remember watching this week.
I've been, and I don't usually talk TV, but I have over the last couple of months, I've fallen into, I like to throw stuff on in the background when I'm like working on computer stuff, or if I'm writing reviews or whatever, or if I'm like lesson planning or whatever, and so I go to comfort sitcoms to just throw on, because I can look up what I want to look up, but I can also ignore them if I don't, if I'm really like into my work. And so I've been using Netflix to rewatch Friends, and I've never really watched Friends in the exact order. I've watched most of it in the order, because like if you're daily, like on whenever they were rerunning it daily on whatever channel, they still do, they usually go in order, but like if you miss a day, you miss a couple episodes in there, and I've seen every episode way too many times. Like it's probably my all-time favorite sitcom. I wish it wasn't, because I know it's not, like, some people have a lot of issues with that show, and they definitely perpetuate some stereotypes. Well, it's a New York-based show with all white people, and eventually they do introduce some African American characters, but it's like, it's New York, guys. This is a melting pot of society.
Word.
And like, we are the whitest white show. I mean, look at Gunther being the key moment there. Like, he's like literally blonde hair, white as could be. And there's like, come on, even in the coffee house, there's rarely anybody of any ethnicity. It's like almost always white people. But it's a show that I've always found a lot of joy in. Chandler cracks me up. I like all the actors, even though Joey, often, I think he overdoes a lot of his reactions in the show. But
yeah,
I've also, as I've gotten older, I've loved Phoebe so much more than I think I ever
Phoebe
did
was
as a
always
kid.
my favorite.
Yeah, she's just terrific. Lisa Kudrow is, I think, severely underrated actress, and I still hate Ross so much. But I've been rewatching episodes of that, and I'm like through up to season 4. I think at this point, just like casually watching too. I'm not like actively. I'm gonna watch 5 episodes today. I'm just kind of
Aren't they like
throwing them on.
20 or 30 minutes? So they're so consumable.
Exactly, they're 22 minutes on average because they were for regular TV, and they move quick. I've seen them all, so I can easily tone them out. And then there are episodes that I really love, and I will just sit and watch. But I've been doing that. But I've watched a few movies this week. I watched Get Shorty, which I talked about on our top 5 movie episode because of John Travolta. I went and saw Dirty Dancing with my wife and daughter in the theater.
Oh,
I've always liked Dirty Dancing. I loved it this time. I don't think I've ever given it 100% of my attention before. I've definitely never seen it on the big screen. And I was like I never knew Baby's real name was Francis. And I've seen this movie so many times, and somehow every time have either forgotten it immediately or blocked it out. And I was like, what? They say her name? I don't remember that at all. I really like, there's so much about the film I really enjoy. And the theater we go to is Epic Theaters, and every Sunday and Wednesday they have a retro screening, and it's the same movie Sunday, Wednesday. So like Dirty Dancing played Sunday, it also played Wednesday this week. Tomorrow we're going to go see Jaws, which I have seen on the big screen now twice, but I love Jaws. It's one of my favorite movies. And my friend David, who is our editor at BurkeReviews.com, has never seen Jaws ever. And
I need to rewatch it.
You do.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid. It was one of my mom's favorite movies, which I'm like, why do you love this movie? Because it makes you scared every time we go to the beach.
Yeah.
Because we lived in Merritt Island.
Well,
But I do want to tell the listeners that I was just looking at what's being released to Prime in July, and it looks like Jaws is being released for,
that makes
included with
sense.
subscription.
Well, if you're near any theater, I can't remember the name of what they call their, like, this little retro screening thing that this theater does, but I think it's through another company that does these retro screenings, and they have these little, like, historical mini documentaries before the movies play, and
Cool.
I loved it, and I wasn't sure how, like, my wife and daughter felt about it. And after Dirty Dancing, she was like, I love how they do Kathy was just like, I love how they do that historical, like, background. I was like, right? It's so cool because it's so interesting. It frames the movie in a really cool way. I've always learned something I didn't know when we saw Raiders and then when we saw Dirty Dancing last week. So I'm really looking forward to see what they say about Jaws, because I've been to a screening with Richard Dreyfuss doing a Q&A at Jaws. So I feel like surprising me at this point would be impressive, like, because I feel like I've done the Jaws thing, and I think the other time I saw it was a TCM screening, so they do a similar thing before their films as well, so I feel like I've probably heard everything that I could hear about Jaws, but I'm hoping maybe there's something new, because I'm a big fan. But so we saw Dirty Dancing, and then I'll knock out these other ones. I saw Adrift, the Shane Lee. I really liked it. I don't love it. I think there's some definite issues, and there was a mother and daughter in my screening, and that was it, because it was late night, like on a Monday night, and this movie's been out for about a month, and they didn't seem to like it. In fact, I heard one of them say it was a bad movie, which was shocking, because I don't see how you can look at it and say bad movie. There is a moment in the film that I think can make or break your feelings about it. It's initially kind of made me dislike it, and then as I started thinking on it, I felt maybe it was smarter than I initially reacted to. There's still some things about it that I wasn't thrilled about. I didn't know it was a true story, and it's a really compelling true story. So I definitely recommend, if you can see Adrift, check it out. It's probably out of your local theaters. It did just debut in the overseas, though. So if you're listening to this in, like, England or whatever, Adrift has just come out, and you should be able to catch it. I rewatched Sicario because I was preparing for the sequel, and I felt like I didn't really remember it. And have you seen Sicario?
Yeah, and I feel like that has one of the most surprising movie openings in the history of, like, all movies.
I really liked it the first time I saw it, and I liked it more the second time, and I feel like I must not have paid attention as well the first time, because, like, there were, like, little beats that I remember being really shocked about in the first viewing, and then this time, like, oh, that makes so much more sense than what I remembered. And I didn't even realize Daniel Kaluuya from Get Out was her partner when I watched it the first time. So I was excited to see him in it, and I was like, oh wow, I didn't realize he was even in this.
Is he the friend?
He's her partner and friend, but yes, he is her like.
But in Get Out.
Oh no, he's the guy. He's the main guy in Little Rel Howery is the friend who is in the recently released Uncle Drew, that is doing okay critic wise, considering it's a basketball movie with people dressed as old men that was based off a Pepsi commercial. So
what?
Yeah, I didn't know that. Uncle Drew is based off a Pepsi commercial. With the Kyrie Irving, who is the titular character Uncle Drew. That was a thing they did with Pepsi. They would dress him up as in this old man makeup and have him go to like street games and like start off, hustling everybody basically. Like, oh, I'm old, I can't play, and then just start schooling everybody because he's an NBA player. It was apparently a chain of commercials back in like 2012 that now spawned a film. Go figure.
Okay, this all makes complete sense. I haven't had cable in like 2 decades, probably.
I didn't know it was a commercial until another critic referenced it, and I was like, really? And I looked it up on YouTube. I was like, oh, I'll be darned. So after I watched Sicario, then I went and saw Sicario Day of the Soldado. It's a good sequel, not as good as I wanted it to be. I feel like there was some really confusing elements, but I don't know if that's on me or if that's on the writing from Taylor Sheridan, but it also doesn't have the stunning visuals that you get in Sicario because Denis Villeneuve is not the director, and so his style is missing, and noticeably so. His style is so visually stunning that it's hard to not notice if it's not there. And then yesterday, I watched Tangerine, so that's what we're going to be talking about for this episode, which I just realized we've not said until just now. But 16 minutes into the episode, I finally discussed the movie, but we're going to be talking about Sean Baker's Tangerine, and that will be the last movie for our theme of June, which is LGBTQ+, or simply Pride Month, which is why we chose the films that we did this month. Is there anything else before we get into Tangerine, Corey?
No.
So, folks, at this time, we're not spoilers yet. This will be our initial kind of reaction to Tangerine, but before we start talking, I like to go in through like the stats. So Tangerine is definitely a hard R. There's a few scenes of nudity, lots of cursing, but the summary on IMDb is: a hooker tears through Tinseltown on Christmas Eve, searching for the pimp who broke her heart. Directed by Sean Baker, written by Sean Baker and Chris Burgoch, who both did Florida Project. Stars basically non-actors for the most part. I'm gonna have to. Okay, up. Come on, IMDb. Katana Kiki Rodriguez, Maya Taylor, Karen Karagulian. I hope that's right. Mickey O'Hagan, James Ranson, excuse me, and then mainly non-actors for the rest of the film. Now, there's a few people who, and saying non-actor is inaccurate. I guess what I mean to say is inexperienced talent, maybe. They did not necessarily set out to be actors, although a director I spoke to recently said everybody in LA is an actor, even if they aren't officially trying to be. So, if that's true, I don't want to offend somebody by saying non-actor, but as in they are not well-known actors, or they're not in a lot. If you look at their credits, I think Tangerine is the only film that they're in, and they might have a few like news interviews or things like that. That is not true of Mickey O'Hagan or James Ranson, who are both in some of Baker's other films. But it is, and I think actually Karen Karagulian is also in Baker's first film, Starlet. But I've only seen Florida Project, and I've been wanting to watch this for a long time. And of course, I can't talk about Tangerine and not talk about the its most known element about the film is that it was shot on 2 iPhone 5S's using an app called Filmic Pro, attachable lenses, and a Steadicam rig that the phone was mounted onto. And you wouldn't know it was shot on an iPhone for sure. You would know that he used a Steadicam because he is tracking people walking a whole lot in this movie. That was a big part of the cinematography in this film, is just people walking through LA, or as they say here, Tinseltown and Sunset Boulevard in particular. But Corey, let's start with you. What are your initial reactions when you talk about the film Tangerine?
I'm really glad that my feelings kind of evolved, but the beginning stressed me out. I was so stressed out.
Why were
I
you
was like,
stressed out?
why is he doing this to me? Well, I think that we should probably talk about that in spoilers, but
Oh, okay.
I just can't handle like the kind of situations that not only they're not just finding themselves in these situations, they're making these situations for themselves. You can't be in that the kind of lifestyle that they're in, you know what I mean, and not
Well, I don't think that's a spoiler. They're transgender prostitutes on Sunset Boulevard in L.A., which apparently is a staple, I guess, of that area, and that is discussed in the film slightly. Um, as in, like, there's a moment where a character buys a prostitute that he assumes is transgender because of where they are, and I hope I'm using the right term. Actually, I've heard them referred to as transgender prostitutes in like reviews and interviews about this movie, but I'm not always clear when it's transgender versus transvestite versus.
I think transgender is when they are going through the change. Like in this movie, aren't they like taking hormones and stuff?
Yes, that is explicitly said, at least of Alexandra, that she is taking estrogen. That is 100% said at the beginning of the film. So I feel comfortable saying transgender there. Now, I don't know if the rest of the prostitutes there are all going through the change or the process. And that's where I'm not sure if are they like transvestite prostitutes where they are men dressing as women, or are they all going through the transgender process? I'm not sure, and I do not mean to offend by using the wrong terminology, but this particular person, that will save names for spoilers, but he is looking for a prostitute that is dressed as a woman and yet has a penis without any question. That's what he's looking for. Now, I don't think he has an issue if later, like, if they're going through the change, because it's a very funny scene, but that he expresses that, you know, hey, you're supposed to, this area is for this type of prostitute, and anyone who's not this type of prostitute should not be in this area. That's how it's expressed in the film. But I feel like your description of the beginning is very similar to mine. I was not sure I had made the right decision to watch this movie. I was so stressed out, not because of the situations though, because of the clearly not acting nature of the lead character Cindy, which is played by Kitiana Kiki Rodriguez. She is, and I again hope I'm using the right terminology there by referring to her as she. I think that is the intention of not just the character but also the actress. I believe is actually transgender. That is my understanding of this film. That both your leads, Maya Taylor and Kitiana Kiki Rodriguez, are actually transgender. I don't know if they were actually prostitutes. I feel like I've read that they were, but I could be wrong. Did you read anything on that?
No, and sometimes when I'm looking through like Wikipedia, it like gives me ideas to look at other places, you know, for more information, but I didn't get that.
Well, the thing is, because these actors, whether or not they're actually prostitutes is irrelevant to my point, I guess, but they are clearly trying too hard at times. Specifically, Cindy. I actually think Alexandra is much more controlled with her performance. Where Cindy is just... If you've ever seen someone try to act mad, like, not an actor, like a normal person, they're trying to, like, act like they're upset, they fall into a pattern of repetition and being belligerent and repeating, I just said repetition, so I'm repeating myself while trying to describe this, but repeating curse words. So repetition of like, oh, you do that, you do that, you do that, and it's obnoxious, and it feels fake. And I was like, oh man, if this is going to be the whole movie, I don't know if I can make it, because I was so checked out, like, right away.
Yes!
But, without spoilers, by the end, I liked the movie. And I was very happy, because I love Florida Project so much. To be fair, the beginning of the Florida Project kind of does the same thing, because the kids are really obnoxious, and they're just yelling and being loud, and I'm like, oh my god, is this how this whole movie's going to be? But by the end, I love the kids. Now, I won't say I love Cindy and Alexandra. But I definitely care about them.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Yeah, not like Brooklyn Prince as Mooney in Florida Project. I love that kid by the end and feel so much sympathy for that kid. And I don't know if that's where I'm at with Cindy and Alexandra, but I care about them and hope that they get their stuff together. Because they make some, as you noticed, some very questionable choices and put themselves in some very bad situations.
I don't
Go ahead.
know how you can live that life and not, though. And I mean, there are some ways where I see that they are very different from a lot of the people that do the same thing that they do and that are in their, I don't want to say their circle, but people that they come in contact where very often, like they share an apartment, they pay rent. You can see, like, I feel like you can see where they're trying to like separate themselves from it.
Yeah. Well,
But you can't.
I'm looking at the trivia on IMDb, and it says the film was shot while co-lead Maya Taylor was first starting to take female hormones. Maya Taylor, in a radio interview with Terry Gross, revealed that much like her character Alexandra, she had worked as a prostitute in Hollywood. And then Maya Taylor and Kitiana Kiki Rodriguez were already friends in real life before the production started. Are three, I think, crucial little things right at the beginning of the trivia that helps kind of give context. And that's, I'm not going to read all the trivia. I just wanted to see if that said anything. It doesn't say much about Kiki though, so I don't know what her situation is. But all right. So I liked it. Would you say by the end, Corey, that you liked it or no?
I did. I don't know if I could visit it again for a long time just because it still would stress me out.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I don't know that I would want to rewatch the whole movie again. I could definitely see pulling clips from this, just like for cinematic style. He uses a really interesting color grading in the film that gives it like a weird kind of vintage feel at times. It's definitely, I'm not good at articulating the color palettes of movies, but there's a washed out almost look to it at times. There's like a color overlay at other moments. I was never sure why it was called Tangerine. There's not like an orange hue to me on most of the shots or anything like that.
I wonder if it's some kind of slang.
Well, there's a reference to her going to jail for tea. And I don't know if that's like a drug term. They never say it in the film.
Oh.
And then there is a moment where Alexandra gives a friend an air freshener that it looks like two oranges. But it's such a, like, it's never zoomed in on, or like there's no reason to assume that's where the name comes from. I had always assumed it was one of the character names, and it's not. So, and I don't know, maybe it's for that area. And that, again, I don't feel like it's said explicitly in the film. But it's something to consider. But it is on Netflix. If you haven't watched it yet, you can definitely check that out. But from this point forward, Corey?
Guys, spoilers. Go watch this movie. Was it on Netflix?
Yes.
Yep, go check it out and then come back and give us a listen. Otherwise, full steam ahead. Spoilers. You've been warned. So I need to hop in first.
Oh.
Because I felt like I was a little... Okay, I was way out of my element watching this movie. But I was like, what are they talking about? They were... And I don't ever want a movie to not be genuine and use like slang and whatever would be used in those situations with whoever is in them, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But they kept like throwing out the term bottom girl, and I'm like, what the hell is a bottom girl? So I had to go like Google it, and I don't really understand, because all the like information I was finding online, the bottom girl for a pimp is actually like their top girl, I guess, like their most trusted whoever, and he or she would use that person to keep other prostitutes in line. And like, okay. I was also reading that like if a pimp goes out of town or goes away, it goes into jail or something, that bottom girl is still expected and like given that responsibility.
Over. Got it.
Yeah. So, but why do they call them bottom girl? And then there's a scene later on in the movie where the bottom girl isn't allowed back into the brothel. So that kind of confused me, because if she's like, you know what I mean, the most trusted or like the highest ranked one, how are they keeping her out, or how is that even their say?
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe it was, maybe she wasn't really the bottom girl, and he was just saying
Telling
that,
her
or
that?
yeah, because it's Chester. One, I was so surprised at who Chester ended up being.
Me too.
Which is the actor's name is James Ranson, and he's in a bunch of stuff. Like he's in Sinister 1 and 2. He's in Generation Kill, and then I think he's also in a couple of other Baker films. I think he was in Starlet, and he was in Mr. Right, which I liked a lot. And I'm trying to find if he was in Spike Lee's Old Boy, which I've not watched yet. And then he's in Starlet, which is Baker's first film.
He's gonna be in this.
But he was really funny when he shows up, when she finally finds Chester. And then even I felt really bad for Dinah, who is Mickey O'Hagan, and when Cindy finds her, man, she just like kicks the door into the hotel and like grabs her by the hair, and that's where there's the most nudity, is in this brothel.
Nasty.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw up. Like, ew.
There's penises everywhere, and
nasty old men, like,
and very cracked out women, for the most part.
They're like sharing a hotel room and a bathroom to service all their customers, like, which was super nasty to me too. They're like all these,
which I think there was a sign on the hotel office window that said, "We will turn away prostitutes," or something like that. There was something like claiming that they don't allow prostitution, and yet there's like a full brothel being run. Like,
and also Cindy goes up to the window and she's like, "Where's the party at?" And then they direct her there. I'm like,
yeah, clearly that's for legal reasons, not like they're clearly aware that it's happening. There's no way that's going on in them not being aware. But yeah, Cindy was my biggest concern, because Alexandra is controlled. Maya is the actor's name or actress's name, and the performance that she gives is, I think, the best of the clearly non-actors in the movie. It's much more controlled, much more subdued, and feels like a performance rather than feels like someone trying to give a performance, which is what I feel like Cindy's character is for the most part. I think by the end, she's become more comfortable in the character and is able to give at least a little more believable performance. It is the type of personality that I wouldn't like anyways. Very dramatic, quick to fight, quick to lose her temper, and then also cool very quickly. Like by the end, like her and Dinah are like friends. Like she's doing Dinah's makeup at one point. They're smoking crack together.
I don't really think they're friends.
I know, but that's kind of my point. Is that moments ago she was beating the crap out of her, or ready to, and now she is like, "Oh, we'll share this crack together," and "Oh, I'll put some makeup on you," and and then as soon as Chester's back, it's back to the yelling and fighting and cursing.
Also, everything I know about drugs is from movies, and I didn't know what they were smoking. I thought they were smoking crack, which apparently it's crystal meth, and I don't really.
Oh, okay. See, I don't know either. I thought that was a crack pipe.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of movies, and that's also my knowledge of drugs is predominantly from movies. I mean, a little bit, like, I've never known people were doing them, but I would later find out that people were doing drugs around me, and I was unaware. Like, I never saw them doing it, but, like, I just thought they wanted to clean at 3 a.m., and that was normal.
Dude! At, like, 12 years old, a family member had a friend that was, like, cleaning the house they shared all night.
Mm-hmm.
All night, and I was like, what the hell? They must have company coming over. I don't know. But, and I really needed to know what tea was, because I totally forgot about that. And what I'm seeing is it might be crystal meth.
Okay, so another expression. Another, not expression, name for it, euphemism.
Was really surprised. So I know that they're, like, in Hollywood and stuff, but there's only one scene in this movie where they're really in any type of danger. I mean, there's always, like, the danger of cops and stuff like that, but I would feel like even just regular, like, transsexual or gay, we already know that, like, prostitution is a very
risky.
violent.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was kind of surprised by that. And I was also very surprised by who Chester was, and that that's just accepted, and he's like this pimp, and he like takes over this donut shop to like run his business. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't know how to
and he has
explain it.
Nash working out of another store, selling drugs only though, not prostitutes. And then he has another guy that we have a really quick interaction with. Cindy is just yelling at the guy playing on the video game machine. Nash I found to be very funny. He's only in two scenes, but the first time it's Cindy yelling at him, being over the top. Does not feel like a scripted performance, but also doesn't feel like a good performance. And then she borrows a cigarette from him there, and she's like, "You're out." And then like later when she comes back, he sees her coming and he hides his cigarettes, and I just loved it. I was like, "All right, see, I like those little callbacks because Baker is really good at this, because what you have to remember is Haley in Florida Project was a non-actress. Like she was an Instagram celebrity that he pulled in and trained, and she does at moments have that same kind of feeling where it feels like she's just improvising, but it feels much more organic, and she doesn't go, even when she goes really big and is like cursing at people in Florida Project, I always believed Haley as a character. I did not believe Cindy as a character for the first half of this movie.
I've seen girls like that though.
Me
I've
too.
seen women like that are just like,
And that's where I'm trying to balance with myself, is that I don't like people like that in real life, and thus I am projecting it onto this character, or is it the character feels just generic, or like a person trying to be what you're saying exists in real life? Like it didn't quite feel authentic. Not that people don't act like that. I have seen people act like that, and I hate those people. I avoid those people because it is. Alexandra points this out in the film. It is drama. Look at all the drama. You just got out of prison. Look at all the drama you're starting. And I don't like drama. I consistently made it my goal to be out of that as much as possible.
Same.
And so maybe that's all it is. By the end, though, I like Cindy as a character. I don't think she's making good choices, but I want her to be okay. And I want Alexandra to be okay. And I think the biggest twist that I didn't see coming in this movie was Chester dropping or throwing Alexandra under the bus, that they'd slept together.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't expecting for her to have slept with him. And also, why would you go run your mouth about somebody else when you did the same thing too?
Yeah, that's the biggest twist, right? Like, why would you do that?
And if you don't want someone to know them, why would you bring up any way of them ever finding out? How would you help them along on this little clue finding journey, I guess? I don't know.
No, for sure. It was a big twist. And Alexandra has, throughout the film, she's telling everybody to come see her show at 7 p.m. And I was like, what kind of show? Like, because it's never clarified what Alex is going to be doing. Sorry, I keep shortening to Alex. It's not because of the masculine. It's because I like to shorten names. And if Alexandra, Alexandria, or Alexander, I will call Alex. So just to clarify that, for simplicity, I'm going to continue saying Alex. That I wasn't sure what her show was going to be. And I given that they were prostitutes, I thought it was going to be like a strip club or something like that. And instead, she's singing. And it's Christmas Eve, so that's an important detail. It's mentioned like twice. It doesn't look like Christmas Eve. Like, there's not a lot of, like, other than we see one family's Christmas dinner, which we'll get to, I think, in a minute. But she's performing. She's told everybody she knows, and nobody shows
Even
up.
people she doesn't like.
Yeah, even people she doesn't like, but nobody shows up. And then I love that moment. That's where I think you finally see Cindy realizing how crappy of a friend she's been to Alex. And she's on the bus with Dinah on their way to the donut shop when she realizes it's after 7 and she needs to get to Alex's show. And so she puts her own mission aside to go be a good friend. And I think that was the moment where I finally bought into both characters. Like, I'd been on Alex's side. I had not been on Cindy's side, and I'm not on her side. I understand why she's upset. I do think she's being irrational, and I don't like that. And I didn't like a lot of the performance, but here I see that bond and I see that desire to do the right thing in her, and it won me over. I think that was the moment where I was like, okay, I like everybody now. I'm rooting for everyone, and the performance happens. It's not bad. I think Alex sings well. It's not amazing or anything like that, but it's not bad. I think it's funny that Dinah feels the need to criticize it, like gives a full critique, like your song's kind of old. Like I was like, wow, okay.
Okay, so like Amy Winehouse, Lily Allen. I was just wanting to name off like everyone who sings like that, or tries to take those older styles. Dinah.
But then we see Alex paid to play, like to perform, and that's, I kind of wish they would have gone into that a little more. To me, it does show like Alex's desire to be something else is very strong, and is willing to pay for the opportunity to be an artist. Like willing to give up her. We saw how she earns money. It's not easily earned. She's willing to give up that hard-earned money to be allowed to sing one song. I think it's implied that she sings a couple of songs, but we only see one song.
And I don't understand also why the club owner is going to cancel her performance when she's paying for it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe he didn't want the performance at all. And he was just like, "There's no one here. Might as well." Yeah. But that scene was important, and then what we haven't talked about really at all is, I think, one of the initial things that threw me off the most was the cab driver.
Yeah.
Because it starts so erratically, where we're just with him, and like I literally have cab driver ? In my notes, and then I have like the list of the different passengers, because there's I have the word gas. I don't know what gas is. Is he getting gas? Does someone have gas? I don't remember. Old lady, selfie girl, the Cherokee guy, which is the longest scene in the cab at first, where the guy's talking about how his name Mia, and Mia was the name Mia was a redbird, I think, and then we get the drugged or drunk guys in the car that puke all over the back seat, and we still don't understand why we're with this cab driver. Like, we just keep coming back to him, that he's not interacted with Cindy, he's not interacted with Alex. There's no connection made at this point early in the film with this character. We don't even know his name yet. We don't learn his name till about halfway through the film, but it's Razmik, I think is how it's said. Razmik. And we see him pick up a prostitute, which is, I mentioned the scene before spoilers, but he picks up what he assumes is a transgender prostitute that will have a penis. And when they finally get to the position where they can do something, he tells the prostitute he wants to go down on them, and then he finds out that there is no penis, and that scene cracks me up. Because,
oh my god, what is that?
Yeah, what is that? And she's like, "What you think?" Like,
I died. Oh my god,
that part cracked me up. And he's mean to her, but he's not like abusive to her. He doesn't punch her or anything like that. So
he does take his money back.
He does take his money back. I mean, to be fair, they didn't do anything. I mean, he did see some stuff, and I think he might have grabbed her boob, but he kicks her out of the cab and tells her to stay off of that area because that's not for you, as in that's not for actual women, which they call real fish, I think.
That pisses me off so bad.
The real fish comment.
They kept calling women fish, and I'm like, why are you gonna use a term like that you're obviously trying to be offensive in terms to real women, and then you're taking hormones.
It's an interesting conundrum. I think that's what I feel like Razmik's character, who is an Armenian cab driver, he has a wife and daughter, and the mother-in-law lives with them. And I think his role in the film is to kind of point out, like, he is, I don't want to say he's clearly gay, but he clearly finds sexual pleasure in being with a transgender person who has a penis still. Because he definitely seems to want a feminine-looking You know, like, because him and Alex have a moment in the film where they go through a car wash, which stressed me out. And I'm not doing anything, but, like, I'm like, that's a lot of pressure to get yourself, you know, finished. This is a really hard movie to talk about and not, like, use inappropriate language, I think. But, you know, in that time frame, because it's like, how long of a car wash is this?
Like 5 minutes.
I mean, it's a lot of pressure. And I think it's shot well enough where, like, you can tell what's going on, but you're not actually seeing what's going on.
It's shot from, like, the back seat.
Yeah, it's very voyeuristic. Like, we're sitting in the back seat watching this play out. And it's framed that way. Like, you're, like, sitting in the center seat of the back seat, which is probably exactly what's happening because they're shooting on an iPhone 5S. So it's like you're sitting in the back seat filming two people fooling around in the front seat from your angle of perspective with your phone. And he is going down on Alex, but Alex, you know, I would say Alex has a very feminine look about her. And she has started growing actual boobs because of the estrogen. That's, again, pointed out by Cindy at the very beginning of the film. And that seems to be the type of person that Razmik is into. Like, still has a penis, but is very feminine. I feel like that's a fair observation made in the film.
Yeah.
And so Razmik has a wife and kid, but he's picking up prostitutes, and that is definitely, I feel like, the reason we see this character and why we kind of get, he's a normal guy trying to live a normal life, but is picking up prostitutes. Now, I feel like he's picking up prostitutes because it's not okay in his culture to be gay. Oh,
yeah. I got mad because he has a wife and I think it's a daughter, and forget the mother-in-law. I'm not about that. Just taking care of your, like,
because
whatever,
they're your mother-in-law. Yeah.
Expected. Yeah. And she's just always giving him a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, it, like, pissed me off that he has a kid and a wife at home, and I mean, their house is fine. It's fine, but that's a lot of money he's throwing around, and we don't know how often he does that.
We see, what appears to be at least twice that day, because he's with Alex, and then he goes on the hunt for Cindy, because he has a crush on Cindy, at night, and so that implies at least twice that day, maybe because of the extra anxiety of it being Christmas, maybe because he found out Cindy was back, and he hadn't seen Cindy in 30 days, he goes to see Alex's show, but I don't know if he goes to Alex's show. He misses it, but he goes. I don't know if he goes to be a friend or if he goes hoping to find Cindy. I feel like he's trying to find Cindy and not necessarily trying to be a good friend. But there is that indication with Alex and him that they are more than just business associates at this point. You know what I mean? Like there is he's good to Alex and Alex is good to him. Like there is it feels more caring than what we see with, like, her other interactions. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I didn't feel like he was just going there to see, because he was genuinely upset
that he missed it.
Yeah, so I feel like that was to be there for.
I agree. And that's the thing. Razmik could have been painted as this villainous character, and he's not. He's painted as this. You're kind of like, I feel bad for him because clearly he wants something he doesn't feel like he can have, except by buying it periodically and it being temporary, you know? Especially because he seems to be in love with Cindy. Not just like, oh, I want to be with Cindy sexually, but like there's something more there, you know, that he goes hunting for her, goes looking for her. And that makes me like sad as this guy. It's sad for many reasons. One, even like the wife's like, I feel like the wife may have known.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least had suspicions that he was gay. And just knows that, well, he still does the right thing. He tries to take care of the family. Or she says that at least, you know. She's embarrassed that her mother has found out. But she's also mad at the mother for being in their business. Yeah. And I don't know, Baker's ability to capture stuff like that is so impressive. Because I definitely don't feel like he ever places a judgment on them, and I feel like that in Florida Project too. Like, Haley is not a good mother in the traditional sense in the Florida Project, but she tries to be the best mother she knows how to be, which is flawed, severely flawed, but she clearly loves Mooney. Even though she does questionable things, she loves Mooney. And I feel like that's kind of painted here too. Like, Razmik does horrible things because I think any spouse, whether male or female, cheating on their spouse with prostitutes is a deplorable thing. I don't think that's an arguable issue. Although this movie does argue, Chester argues it, like the whole idea of cheating, like, you know, is brought into debate by Chester. But he's not exactly a person we're supposed to think highly of.
He also has tattoos on his face, and he's got like a grill.
Yeah,
and he runs prostitutes out of a donut shop
and drugs, and apparently bad drugs, because he smokes whatever, I guess, meth with Dinah and Cindy, and he's like, whose stuff is this? This is good, not like mine. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, what the heck?
He's like selling junk and knows it. Yeah, it's a look into a world that I'm definitely not privy to. And then I found it interesting though that, again, 2 LGBTQ movies that we watched this month, My Own Private Idaho and this, focus heavily on prostitution within that community, and that, I don't know if that's like, is that just how Hollywood depicts this culture? Is that, I mean, because obviously Milk is totally opposite, but there is not necessarily opposite, but there are references to prostitutes. I mean, Emil Hirsch, his character, I think when he meets him, there's allusions to him being willing to have sex for money, or even if it's not like a direct traditional prostitute like transaction, that he'd be willing to sleep with someone if it got him where he wanted to go next, you know. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's an accurate representation of like just a section of the populace, or if that is a, you know, Hollywood depiction of homosexuality is more sexually deviant. If that, I don't know if that's the right phrasing. But I didn't know My Own Private Idaho was going to be about prostitutes. I did know that about Tangerine. And again, it's not, I don't feel like Baker places judgment on any of the characters in the movie.
Oh, you're right.
But it is a much more challenging situation. And apparently one that's heavily built on truth, much like Florida Project, is the hidden homeless is the kind of theme of the Florida Project. This transgender prostitution on Sunset Boulevard, I believe, is real. Like, it is grounded in fact, even if the characters that we're following aren't currently doing that. Apparently, at least Alexandra's actor Maya was a prostitute in Hollywood at some point. So yeah, it's a surprising thing. Like, it's a world that I've definitely not been a part of, and I'm not, you know, upset about that. I've not been in any form of prostitution or drugs in that way. So it's, you know, it's an eye-opening kind of experience to witness it, especially in a way that feels very much like, because of that we're tracking shots a lot, we're watching them walk through the city a lot, and it's very while it's steady because he's using a Steadicam, it's very handheld feeling. Like the perspective, the angles that we're at always are handheld type of framing, and we get some interesting shot composition. There's a scene where Sydney's smoking a cigarette, I think, like waiting she's debating something, like her next course of action, and it's just like a few different shots of her thinking and sitting and smoking, and like her head's barely in the frame at one point. We're seeing this kind of vista behind her, and then she finally gets up, and I think she says like F it, and she goes off to look for Chester more. He does some really cool moments like that where it's just like we're just sitting with the characters dealing with what they're going through. Like, they're dwelling on it. There's no dialogue, there's no voiceover. It's just we're looking at them debating what their next move is going to be. And I don't know, he's a really innovative filmmaker who knows how to capture character like I think few other new filmmakers seem to be doing. And I think we have exhausted what we have to say about Tangerine.
You're so much more, I don't know what word, articulate than I am. But I am very glad that the whole movie did not make me feel that way, because I thought I was going to have to turn it off.
I was concerned too, for sure at the beginning. I was like, oh man, this is going to be a tough hour and a half. But by the end, I really enjoyed it.
We didn't even talk about the scene. I'm so sorry. I always do this. Where she is trying to make money, and it's later on in the evening, and this is the only scene where we get, any type of like threatening behavior towards either of them. And Cindy is trying to pick someone up, and this SUV pulls up and throws piss on her.
Yeah, that was so messed up.
And then they drive up to Alex and like run their mouths that they did this to her. So Alex takes her to a laundromat and helps clean her wig and her clothes, and then gives her wig to wear.
Mm-hmm. Which, what an important scene to like, because this is after Cindy finds out that Alex has betrayed her, that she slept with Chester, but that's like them, they're still friends, despite all of their chaos, and it's a really touching moment. And then Alex is like, that looks really good on you, like to the wig, and it's, oh man, that scene actually was like, I think that cemented it for me that it was a really good movie too. Like it ends in such a small thing, because it's the most threatening thing that happens in the film, is her getting doused with somebody. I mean, how it'd been messed up if he threw like beer on her, but he threw piss on her. Like, that's
I don't
so
understand
sick and twisted.
Why people feel the need to do so many things that they do. Like, if you don't like it, then don't partake. Move along.
Yeah.
Like,
there's no reason for you to be there, like, pretending to pick up a prostitute if you don't want them.
Why else would they be there? Because that's what that area is for. There's nothing.
Well, I mean, obviously, they are there to commit a hate crime of sorts. It might have been they were drunk and fun. Like, hey, it'd be funny if we threw piss on somebody, and like, oh yeah, let's do that. Or, obviously it's for a movie, so it's cinematic. It gives a reason for Alex and Cindy to reconnect in a moment where Cindy's clearly done with Alex. Like, at least for that time, she was done. And that moment makes her vulnerable for the first time, really, we've seen in the movie. Because Cindy, from the get-go, has been aggressive and attacking. And that the moment she gets pissed thrown on her, she's done. She's broken, and she hasn't been that the entire film. I think that's where we see her the most human, other than that scene I just discussed where we just see her thinking, because that's her contemplating. I think, like, it's almost existential, like, what's my purpose, what am I supposed to be doing, why do I act like this, I don't know if I should act like this. And then I think her saying F it is, I'm just gonna go with who I am, and I am this aggressive lioness of a woman, and I'm gonna go and attack this other woman who's threatening my world, And when she gets doused with urine, she's broken, and you see that. And especially, like, it's in my hair, like, she's done. She has no money, and I think even more to the point, she was going there trying to get some money because she has nothing, and now she's covered in piss. So the rest of the night's probably out of the question, right? Like, you're not making money smelling like that, or not having clothes to even stand on the side of the road now, like, he's wrecked her completely. Everything that just happened has been destroyed. And yeah, that's definitely an important moment to bring up, Corey. I don't know how the heck we were about to skip that, but it's definitely a tough movie to recommend. It is not something everyone's going to be comfortable with. Just the nudity that is in the film, because honestly, considering it's about two prostitutes, there's not a lot of visual sexuality in the movie. There's that one scene where she kicks in the door to the brothel hotel room, and there's a bunch of naked people there. I think there was one other naked. You see when Razmik picks up the actual woman, you see her boobs, and you kind of see down her shorts, but I don't feel like too graphically, where you basically just see that there's no penis, and that's it. It's not like you're looking at her actual vagina, but you're looking down her pants, and you can definitely see like the pubic region. So there is, if you're uncomfortable with nudity, there's definitely that's going to be a part of the movie. But it's not on screen long. It is like it's there. It's never. I don't even think
just to get the point across.
Yeah, and it's not even like the center of the frame. It's like just kind of off in the periphery. Like it's there, and if you're looking for it, you'll see it. It's even the brothel's dark. Like there's almost no lights on, so it's a lot of it's in silhouette, but you can still definitely tell what you're looking at. Especially that one guy. I'm sorry, but he was like hung like a horse. I was just like, what is happening?
I didn't even see that.
Oh, Jesus.
All I saw was the old man that looked like he might break a hip.
Yeah, well, and then there was a really big fat guy. I love, you want me to call the police? And the head of the brothel was like, yeah, smartass, let's call the police, like, to the brothel. Good call, you moron. But that also does pose an interesting conundrum. Like, what do people who are breaking the law do when someone is threatening them? Like, you don't have a recourse, I guess. Like, you're just kind of stuck, you know, you just hope for the best. Because they, you know, one of their...
Which trouble's worse?
Yes. Is it worth losing this one prostitute in order to not get shut down? And apparently the answer is yes. Dinah's life was expendable. Because nobody knows what happens to Dinah. They just let her... Okay, we're just back to business. Can't call the cops, and we're not going to chase after Sydney. And I do like how Cindy... I'm saying the wrong name. Cindy spells her name. That is S-I-N... not apostrophe, hyphen D-E-E. I don't know if you had closed captions on, but that's how it was spelled.
Rella.
Yeah. But I definitely, I'm going to go not quite golden for this film. There are some definitely amateurish elements at the beginning of the film that are a little tough, and I do think the subject matter keeps it from being a true must-see film for everyone, but I do think there's a lot here, especially if you are an independent filmmaker and you don't have access to equipment, but you have a story you want to tell. Sean Baker has demonstrated that you do not need a lot of equipment to make a film. Not in today's world with iPhones, and this is a 5S. We're now at iPhone 8 and X. Like, you can make a high quality film if you have to spend. The Filmic Pro app is like $20 or less, but it does allow you to shoot at 24 frames per second, which is traditional film shooting. You'll need attachable lenses, because there's at least one shot that looks like a fisheye lens, and then a lot of the shots he's getting are very wide angle lenses that he would have used an attachable lens for. And then having the Steadicam just will make your shots look better, because holding your phone, you will have an inevitable shake in your hand. So having the Steadicam, so you'll need a couple $100 to get that equipment, and an iPhone or an Android phone, because there's definitely, like, if you have a Galaxy or a Pixel, you have a good camera. But other than that, I'm going to go not quite golden. Corey, what about you?
Same.
So that is the last movie of LGBTQ plus and/or Pride Month theme of June. In July, kind of going into a summer idea, we thought we would do coming-of-age stories for the month of July, a genre that I am a huge fan of, and Corey is also, I think, in general, a fan of the coming-of-age stories, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, we're going to get some of our big gap movies off of our list. And we're starting with Corey's pick. And what is that, Corey?
Guys, I'm finally going to see The Graduate. I've only wanted to watch it for about 10 years.
We are going to be watching The Graduate, which I don't believe is streamable on any service at the moment. I'm not 100% on that, though, to be fair. So do check, like, HBO. I doubt Netflix has it. Amazon might. And you can definitely, like, get it, like, on Vudu or iTunes. I just don't think it's free to stream. It's the 1967 film The Graduate, starring who's becoming one of my favorite actors, Dustin Hoffman, Anne Bancroft, Catherine Ross, William Daniels, Murray Hamilton, Elizabeth Wilson, directed by Mike Nichols, written by Calder Willingham and Buck Henry, and it says others on IMDb, based on the novel by Charles Webb, so that's the other. And it's a film I've only seen once, and not too long ago, but I am looking forward to rewatching it. It's a, man, Corey, it's such an iconic film. I'm excited that this is what we're starting off July with. So we'll be back next week to talk about The Graduate. If you watch it and you want to give us your thoughts on it, or if you've seen it and you want to give us your thoughts on it, you can either email us at contact@burkreviews.com. That is contact@burkreviews.com. Or you can follow us on social media and hit us up there. You can follow me at Burke Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Corey.
At Corey R. Star, 2 R's on the end.
And you can read all my reviews at BurkeReviews.com, including Corey previews Netflix releases in July, what's coming and what's going on Netflix in the month of July, and what she recommends and what she's excited about, including a new comedy special from Eliza Schlesinger. Is that right?
Schlesinger.
I'm only really familiar with her through Doug Loves Movies, and now I do follow her on Instagram. But she is a very popular stand-up comic. She's very, very funny. And I've watched bits and pieces of some of her other stand-ups. Very distinctive style. And yeah, she has a new special coming out this month, which she was just on Doug Loves Movies promoting.
I need to listen to that.
And so, until next time, folks, keep watching movies. This has been a Burke Reviews podcast. BurkeReviews.com.